Have you ever wondered what would happen if you suddenly by accident found yourself in an unfamiliar place made up of endless corridors and all sorts of strange spaces? The Backrooms universe is the very embodiment of this idea. This universe, which once originated from a single photograph on 4chan and became a creepypasta, has grown so much that it now has its own fandom, numerous video games, a web series, and now even a movie. A brief explanation for those unfamiliar with the term creepypasta. It is essentially internet folklore. It's any horror content created by users, short stories, videos, legends built around a single image, or even entire universes. The main point of creepypasta is the sense of presence and the blurred line between fiction and reality. Before we move on to the backrooms, let's talk about liminal spaces. This thing has become very popular over the past 5 years. Liminality is a space that is sort of between states, where people physically move from one place to another. An empty train station, a swimming pool with no people, an office where everyone has left but the lights are still on. Places created for a certain function but without people become unsettling, almost hostile. This also includes the dreamcore aesthetic, where liminality mixes with childhood nostalgia, as if you found yourself in a dream in a familiar place, but it is distorted and alien. All these themes don't play on classic scary things, but rather on the feeling that reality has cracked, as if you ended up in a set that someone forgot to finish. Or on the contrary, you suddenly find yourself behind the set and see how everything is actually arranged. The legend of the backrooms emerged after someone in 2019 posted a photo taken at an angle that evoked an inexplicable sense of unease. And then someone came up with a caption for it. If you're not careful and you slip out of reality in the wrong place, you'll end up in the backrooms, where there's nothing but the stench of old, damp carpet, the madness of yellow walls, the endless, unbearable hum of fluorescent lights, and 600 million miles of randomly arranged empty rooms. Such an unusual creepypasta couldn't go unnoticed for long, and in 2022, a Californian guy named Kane Parsons made a series of short films about the backrooms. The video instantly went viral as it perfectly captured that very feeling from the original creepypasta. And it really is creepy. And 5 years later, that same Parsons was invited to direct a feature-length film. The film begins with found footage. Some person gets lost in a space made up of endless yellow rooms, corridors, and strange signs. After wandering around this space for a while, he is quickly killed by some strange entity. The TV turns off, and in its reflection we see people in white lab coats who obviously know something. We are introduced to the main character, Clark. He is the owner of a failing furniture store. He lives in his own store, which itself feels like a creepy liminal space. On top of that, his wife has left him, and burdened with all this accumulated stress, he goes to see a psychologist named Mary. And unlike most films, here the psychologist won't just be a background character, but the main heroine. On top of everything else, Clark also starts receiving outrageous electricity bills. Then, one night he notices a strange light, after which he passes through a wall and ends up in the backrooms. There he sees endless corridors, distorted furniture, and barely manages to escape from a wild entity. However, right after that, he goes back there and steals a stool. After all, you would also go back for a souvenir from a hellishly creepy place where you were almost killed just moments ago, right? Clark tries to tell Mary about everything, but of course she doesn't believe him. So Clark decides to prove he's right in the most reasonable way. He takes his assistant Kat and her boyfriend Bobby with a camera and goes back there again. Obviously, Clark had a plan to lose all his friends, and that's exactly what happened. And after that, Clark goes for a walk in our peaceful place. Meanwhile, Mary receives a message from him. He says that he opened the window and will not be coming back. After that, she comes to the store herself and also ends up in the backrooms. There, Mary finds Clark, who has completely lost it. He lives among deformed imitations of people, including his wife, who is no longer as photogenic as she used to be. Clark invites everyone to the table. For dinner, they have pieces of belly cut from the eight-eyed man, and in the fridge there are offal from the former assistant. Clark asks Mary to act out a scene where she is his wife, but Mary loses her temper and says that his wife didn't leave because of a cruel world, but because Clark himself refused to take responsibility for his own failures. And then Clark's main nightmare appears, a huge, exaggerated, grotesque pirate, who in fact was played by Clark himself for an ad for his dying store. The pirate bites Clark and starts chasing Mary. She fights him off with a piece of cement. Then scientists in hazmat suits arrive. They neutralize the monster and Mary is taken to the base. A certain Phil in a white lab coat comes to her and tells her that they have the Async Corporation, and before that he worked with MRI machines. Their conversation turns out to be rather awkward and inconclusive, and then we are shown that the backrooms have already started to copy even Mary's own traumas. Inside, a crudely constructed interrogation room appears where her broken copy is sitting. That's where the film ends. In general, it's no coincidence that backrooms became so popular, and it's no coincidence that it happened in our time. Every generation has its own version of a haunted house. In Gothic novels, it's a castle with a family curse. In 1980s horror, it's a suburban house with a poltergeist or an abandoned camp with a maniac. In the 2000s, it's a videotape, a website, or a cursed phone. Generation Z, having grown up surrounded by technology and the internet, is precisely the one that might fear losing the boundary between the real and the virtual, and falling into a place from which there is no escape. In the era of offices, co-working spaces and business centers, the horror has migrated there. We are not afraid of ending up in an underworld with demons and cauldrons, but rather in a place where we have to endlessly make meaningless spreadsheets in Excel, eat lunch in a sleek kitchen with no windows, stand by the water cooler and listen to the same story from the office manager about how he couldn't find parking for half an hour, without any chance to quit or change anything. It's no coincidence that the office has become the main setting for this creepypasta. The very visual of the office is a perfect backdrop for human stagnation. Identical rooms divided into little squares. All of this creates an unsettling atmosphere of daily repetition and routine, which becomes harder to escape as you get older. And speaking of the film, it actually uses this idea of a swamp. Only Clark gets stuck in his own store in endless square meters of lousy furniture that he hates but has to sell. He's also stuck in his failed personal life, endlessly replaying the same final conversation with his wife. And the film, in terms of conflicts, takes on quite a lot. If the backroom copies reality, then why not make it unique for everyone? After all, each of us has our own set of fears and traumas. For one person, a party might be terrifying. For another, loneliness is the real horror. And at first, the film follows exactly this psychological path. Once inside, Clark sees a bunch of furniture bent at strange angles, fused together incorrectly, which perfectly reflects the chaos in his mind. Why does he go back there again? Because he's tired of no one believing him. And it's important for him to prove he's right to the psychologist. And he has unresolved issues with his wife, to whom he was never able to prove anything. But it feels like there wasn't enough of the backrooms for Mary, even though she's the second main character. And yet her story is told to us in detail. As a child, she had a mentally ill mother who barricaded herself in the house and forbade her daughter from going outside because there were so many dangers out there. Then her mother was taken to a psychiatric hospital and her childhood home was demolished. Mary grew up, became a psychologist, and wrote a book about how important it is to open new doors for yourself. A simple, clear internal conflict. When Clark invites Mary to a dinner party and makes her act out a scene, she realizes that she actually can't help him. After all, a psychologist can only help someone who is ready to work on themselves. That's a good move. But what about her own personal inner conflicts? She clearly isn't particularly satisfied with her life. But then Mary tells Clark that he doesn't have to change. He can stay the way he is, as long as he leaves her alone. And then a terrifying, distorted pirate appears and kills Clark. Let's assume this means that the pirate doesn't like the psychologist's idea. But if Mary said that Clark can stay the way he is, that means Clark can keep whining and getting angry. And what are the downsides of that for the pirate? In that case, why didn't he go after Clark before? And then the pirate starts chasing Mary. But why? If we follow the movie's logic that the backrooms are different for everyone, then she basically doesn't need him at all. Although theoretically you could explain it by saying that it's as if the psychologist is being attacked by someone else's traumas. Why didn't they create a monster for Mary that would reflect her own traumas? If we imagine that the backrooms are a distorted mirror of reality and Mary keeps remembering the excavator that demolished her childhood home, then why not have an excavator there moving in the opposite direction, actually rebuilding new walls, the very thing she fears so much? So it turns out that the film delves deeply into psychology, but doesn't follow it through to a logical conclusion. Clark seems to go insane a little too quickly. One moment he's a normal person, and just a couple of scenes later he's already a crazed maniac. But you could also assume that time works differently in the backrooms. We're given a brilliant setup and a lot of questions. Let's talk about whether the film managed to scare the viewer and what makes adapting an internet horror story so challenging. Let's start with the visuals and sound effects. The film is well made, featuring a huge number of unsettling, frightening locations and plenty of fresh cinematographic ideas. The sounds in the film are very scary. Horror is generally a playground for sound designers, and here they've done a great job. And that endless electric hum from the lights that follows you throughout the whole film, all those reversed voices, the sound of a child crying. The cinematographer faced a difficult task. They had to preserve the vibe of the original creepypasta, namely its angularity, graininess, and ambiguity. To achieve this, he uses shots with a tilted horizon and of course the effect of filming with a home video camera. In general, the found footage genre is very powerful, and when it first appeared during the time of the Blair Witch Project, it absolutely blew up the film industry and spawned millions of horror movies based on found footage, which eventually started copying themselves and descended into complete dreariness. But now the main question: did the creators manage to preserve the atmosphere of the backrooms? In fact, the task was not an easy one. After all, what made the original creepypasta so frightening? Its abstractness? There's just an image of an empty yellow office and nothing more. The entire universe was imagined by internet users themselves. "There is nothing scarier than a closed door," said Alfred Hitchcock. And by a closed door, he meant any kind of unknown. It's very difficult to create a monster that will scare the viewer more than the anticipation of the monster itself. And I think everyone would agree that the most terrifying scenarios usually play out not in reality, but in your own mind. That's why, when a strange entity appeared in the film, the level of tension, at least for me, immediately dropped. But here, after all, we're dealing with a feature-length film, and the director couldn't just show the audience an internet image for an hour and a half. And he had two options. The first was to try to recreate the vibe of the original creepypasta as much as possible, to focus on the lack of logic, on the endless distorted space, and to make the location itself the main character and antagonist. And in that case, it would have turned out to be pure art house, but without any connection to the characters, it still wouldn't have worked, because the driving force of any plot is always a living being. And the second option was to follow the path of classic dramaturgy, and provide an explanation for the origin of the backrooms. So the creators decided to take both approaches at once, and because of that, the film ended up being split into parts. On one hand, they inserted some entities that, for example, immediately kill Kat and her boyfriend Bobby, and in a rather classic way, with blood and guts. We never find out who killed them. Meanwhile, Clark has a monster that operates according to a completely different logic. At the end, a scientific organization appears, with people in white lab coats. I understand that the async organization was in the original series, but that's not a reason to just insert it here. If in the series it was simply another element of horror, here they tried to give it some kind of logic. But what happened is that the organization knows almost nothing and interrogates a woman who was there only once. It can also be assumed that this was a kind of meta-commentary from Backrooms itself. If even the scientists don't know what's going on, then an open ending is the only possible ending for such a story. To sum up, it can be noted that the film is a mix of art house, pop psychology, and a bit of science fiction. The characters were developed but only in fragments, as if just to serve the plot. The lore wasn't really explored and the gaps weren't filled. A lot of questions remain. If the backrooms consume electricity from real life, in what other ways can it affect reality? Why does the space adapt to people's traumas but does so selectively? At the same time, the film is stunning in terms of visuals and sound, and the locations evoke both interest and unease. For example, I really like the scene where the camera descends, and on each floor shows an increasingly distorted room where Mary is sitting. Memory truly distorts our recollections, and it would be very interesting to explore this theme further. Overall, the film is well made, but there is very little revealed lore, as if the creators just wanted to give people a brief introduction to the Backrooms universe without delving too deeply into it. Share your thoughts about this in the comments and let us know your impressions of the film. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to the channel and leave a like. See you next time, friends.